Now that we're ready to print, we need to get rid of the paper that is attached to our plate. If we just pull it, we're probably going to end up bending or ripping the foam. So you need to very, very carefully peel the tape slowly. Hold the foam in one hand while you peel with the other hand. Very slow, and go a little bit at a time to get the tape off. If the tape isn't coming, don't pull harder. Just raise your hand, or if another student at your table can help you, ask them. Or if not, I can help you. This paper, we don't need anymore. If you want to take it, you can. Especially if it's ripped or you have holes in it, you might just want to throw it in the trash or the recycling. So get rid of that paper. And then you should have a printing plate that has some nice deep lines. Again, I'm using my fingers to make sure that I can feel all the lines very clearly, because if the lines aren't very deep, then it's not going to be showing up very well on our print. The next thing you're going to need is some practice paper. This paper is a little thinner than our final papers that we're going to use, but we need to do a few test prints to make sure we're comfortable with printing and that our print will show up. So don't forget, every print you make, you need to write your name on the back first. Sometimes we remember our name on the first paper, but as soon as you grab the paper for your next print, you forget to do it again. Every paper needs to have a name on it. The next thing, you'll notice that my project is on top of a messy mat. This is because it'll help with our cleanup a little bit, because we'll probably get some ink around our printing plate, and we don't want to have a huge mess to clean up. In the middle of your table, or in between you and a partner, there will be foam plates with ink on it at the top. Do not just take your roller and roll all over back and forth. That will create way too much ink. You can't have too much ink at one time, because it won't roll evenly on here, and the extra stuff will leak into the lines and you won't see your print at all because there'll be too much ink. The way that you can tell is by listening and looking. So since I don't have any ink down here, what I did was I dipped my brayer, this rolly thing right here, into the ink. You can see there's a line where there is some ink here. I didn't roll it all over, I dipped. It's like the consistency of toothpaste. It's a little thicker than paint, but it's a lot like paint. I'm going to hold the tray with one hand, and with my other hand, I'm going to drag the brayer. And I'm going to drag it down, and then I'm lifting my brayer back up and going back to the top and dragging it again. So I'm trying to drag my brayer, but I'm noticing that I still have too much ink, and my brayer isn't really rolling that nicely. What I need to be able to hear is a sticky sound. Do you guys hear a sticky sound yet? No. That means there's way too much ink on this brayer. You can actually see that too by all of the lines, the thick lines. It should look more like little dots. Even on the brayer, you can see there's straight lines going all the way around my brayer. There's too much ink on this. If that happens, you're going to look for the empty tray that's sitting at your table to get rid of some of the ink. Now my brayer is rolling back and forth. Do you hear the noise? That is the sticky noise I'm looking for. That is ink that is a good amount. It looks a lot more spotted rather than lined. My ink, there's enough ink on here now that I'm going to move my extra tray to the side and start rolling on my printing plate. Now I don't want to just go one way, because if I do that, there's going to be lots of areas that don't get enough ink. Now I'm going to go back to my original tray. Now that my brayer has been emptied a little bit, I'm starting to hear that sticky sound on here now. I can go back and forth, side to side. I'm trying to spread the ink out a little bit so I get that sticky noise. And it looks a lot more spotted. And I'm going to go back. Point is, I want to get my plate completely black, and I can roll off of my plate and lift up a little bit, and as you can see, it's going to start getting on my mat. Try and keep your plate to one side of your mat so later on it doesn't get on your papers. You will have to touch areas that have ink on it if you want to make sure your whole plate has been covered. Remember to angle it a couple different ways, go off the edges, and then right at the end, try and get as much of it covered as possible. When it's covered, I'm going to rest my brayer very carefully off the tray. I don't want the handle to get ink on it. And then I'm going to take my paper, sliding it over, and put it on top of my print. And I'm going to massage my paper. I'm going to rub all around. I'm trying to feel exactly where my printing plate is. I'm massaging with both hands. I'm touching all four edges to make sure I get all the corners. Make sure I press all inside. And then slowly try and peek and see how my print looks. I'm going to peel it off. Now prints are going to have a bunch of different textures. You'll know just by looking at it what you need to do for your next print. This is a pretty good first print, but I can see some areas are a lot darker than others. Some of them are a little faded. So my next print, I'm going to make sure I add a little extra ink to my printing plate. Now I'm going to go put this to the side. I might ask you to put it in a specific place or on the drying rack. Or I might ask you to just put it on the side of your table to let it dry for a moment. Grab a new sheet of test paper and what goes on the back. Your name. Scoot that back over there. And then I'm going to add the ink again. And I'm going back to my original plate. Now I can really hear that sticky noise. Roll back and forth. Oop. I'm gonna need more ink. And it's starting to get to the point where my ink plate here isn't very shiny. If it's not shiny, it means that there's not really any more ink on there. So there's not enough ink on this plate anymore. I'm going to just gently dip a tiny bit more onto my brayer and then roll, just by like petting a cat, I'm rolling it down and lifting up in a couple of places before I start rolling back and forth. And I can move it side to side, up and down. I can hear a little sticky noise. It's not a lot, but my brayer is rolling back and forth, so I should be good. Rolling up and down. My printing plate this time is super shiny. It wasn't this shiny before, so I think I have more ink on here this time. Get a little more to get the bottom. Go off the plate, and then right where my fingertip was, I'm going to try and just roll on top of the fingertip. Put my brayer back down. Slide my plate over if I can. Just tap it. And put my paper down and massage. If your printing plate's a little crooked, it's okay. Later on, for our final pictures, we're going to cut out the extra paper around our printing plate, so you won't be able to tell if anything's crooked. It's not going to matter. I'm massaging with both hands, feeling all the edges and the corners. And then peel. Oh, that's much better. So this time I can see my whole print. It's a lot darker. Some of my lines are kind of hard to see, so there were sections where I had a little too much ink, but my print is a lot clearer than my first print. Right? But they're still both very good prints. I can see all my edges and I can see my line design. When you're printmaking, all your prints are going to look a little different from each other. That's okay, that's just how prints are supposed to look. You need at least 2 test prints today. If you complete it and you have enough time and you want to try at least 1 more, you could probably do 3 if you have the time. I'm noticing that for some reason there's a weird little spot right here, and on my printing plate there is a blob of ink that I didn't rub. I guess I didn't rub my finger on it or something. Now, when you are finished, our printing plates need to be cleaned. After you have done your 2 prints, or if there's time, 3, you're going to take your plate when I say you can, when I give you permission. You can take your plate to the sink. We're going to take it over to one of the sinks. There are 2. Take it over to one and carefully just run some water on top. This ink is water soluble, which means when water hits it, it will wash off. Yeah, there's that weird spot. That's weird. Like a chunk of ink. I'm going to rub it gently with my fingers after I get most of the ink off. Try to let the water do most of the work for you. And then you can gently, very gently, just kind of rub your finger over the surface. If you bend it or you rub too hard, you might break your printing plate, and it's going to be very hard to print your pictures next week if you don't keep it gentle. Once it looks like this, and it's mostly white, you're going to take a little paper towel from the tray and make a little sandwich with your plate. Just kind of tap it. This will get most of the ink off, and it will also dry your plate so we can put them in your folders at the end of the day. Once it looks like this, you can bring it back to your table, sit it aside and let it dry for a moment,